The digital world, for all its boundless potential, often felt like a vast, echoing chamber of noise. I'd spent years navigating its intricate pathways, witnessing the ebb and flow of human connection, the rise and fall of fleeting trends, and, perhaps most dishearteningly, the relentless tide of negativity that seemed to wash over everything. My own corner of the internet was a carefully curated space, a digital sanctuary where I tried to foster genuine connections, share moments of joy, and engage in thoughtful discussions. I wasn't naive. I knew the darker underbelly existed, the corners where vitriol festered and prejudice found fertile ground. But I always hoped, perhaps foolishly, that the light would ultimately prevail, that empathy would drown out the hate. I considered myself an observer, more than a participant, in the grander online debates. My inclination was never to jump into the fray, to engage in the endless, often pointless, back and forth that characterized so much of social media discourse. I'd seen too many well-intentioned arguments devolve into shouting matches, too many nuanced points lost in a deluge of personal attacks. It felt like trying to extinguish a wildfire with a teacup, a futile, exhausting endeavor that left everyone scorched and nothing resolved. My energy, I believed, was better spent elsewhere, on tangible actions in the real world, or at least, on cultivating a positive space within my own digital sphere. I believed in leading by example, in being the change I wished to see, rather than merely lamenting what was wrong. Yet, despite my best efforts to cultivate a peaceful online existence, the pervasive negativity had a way of seeping in, like smoke under a closed door. It wasn't always directed at me personally. Often, it was the sheer volume of casual cruelty, the thoughtless dissemination of harmful ideas, the way certain individuals seemed to revel in tearing others down. It left a bitter taste, a sense of helplessness that gnawed at me. How do you fight something so amorphous, so widespread, so deeply ingrained in the fabric of online interaction? How do you respond to an ideology that thrives on division, that seeks to diminish and dehumanize? The silence felt complicit, but direct confrontation felt equally ineffective. It was a conundrum I grappled with almost daily, a quiet frustration that simmered beneath the surface of my otherwise calm demeanor. There was a particular acquaintance, someone I'd known tangentially for years, through mutual friends, perhaps a shared past class or two. Let's call them Alex. Alex was a constant presence on my feed, not because I sought them out, but because the algorithms of connection kept us loosely tethered. Their posts were often loud, opinionated, and frequently veered into territory that made my stomach churn. I'd learned to scroll past, to mute, to mentally filter, but sometimes their content was so egregious, so overtly hostile, that it became impossible to ignore. It was a stark reminder that even within my carefully constructed digital haven, the outside world, with all its ugliness, could still intrude. I often wondered what drove such public displays of animosity. What satisfaction could possibly be derived from spreading such poison? I had no answers, only a growing sense of unease, a quiet dread that one day, something would cross a line that even I couldn't simply scroll past. I knew, deep down, that a moment of reckoning was inevitable. That moment arrived, as I had grimly anticipated, on a Tuesday morning. I was sipping my coffee, scrolling through my feed, trying to ease into the day with some light-hearted content, when Alex's post slammed into my consciousness like a physical blow. It wasn't just another opinionated rant, it was a meme, slickly produced, designed to be easily shareable, that distilled a particularly vile and prejudiced ideology into a few insidious images and a hateful caption. It targeted a vulnerable group, one that already faced immense challenges and discrimination, and it did so with a sneering, unapologetic cruelty that made my blood run cold. It wasn't just offensive, it was actively harmful, designed to dehumanize and incite. My first instinct, a primal surge of anger, was to lash out. To type a furious retort, to dissect their bigotry, to expose the ugliness of their words for all to see. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, already formulating scathing rebuttals, pulling up facts and figures to dismantle their baseless claims. But then, a familiar weariness washed over me. I'd seen this play out countless times before. The angry comments, the righteous indignation, the endless back and forth that ultimately changed no minds, only solidified existing biases, and often, simply gave the perpetrator more attention, more fuel for their fire. It was a cycle of negativity that I was determined not to feed. Engaging directly, I realized, would only validate their hateful platform, giving them the very engagement they craved, however negative. It would be like wrestling a pig in mud. You both get dirty, and the pig enjoys it. No, I thought, there had to be another way. A way to respond that didn't amplify their hate, but rather diminished it. A way that didn't descend into their level of vitriol, but instead elevated the conversation. I wanted to turn their negativity on its head, to use their own toxic energy against them, not by mirroring it, but by transforming it. The idea began to coalesce slowly, a faint spark in the darkness of my frustration. It wasn't about winning an argument. It was about shifting the narrative, about demonstrating that there was a more powerful, more constructive way to react to such brazen prejudice. It was about proving that hate, when met with something unexpected and genuinely good, could be rendered impotent, even ridiculous. The key, I realized, was surprise. Alex thrived on predictable outrage. They expected condemnation, argument, and fury. They were prepared for a fight, and probably even relished the opportunity to engage in one. But what if there was no fight? What if the response was so utterly outside their frame of reference, so antithetical to their expectations, that it left them disoriented and exposed? The more I considered it, the more appealing the idea became. It wouldn't be a direct attack, but a strategic countermove, a judo flip of their own negativity. It would be subtle, yet undeniably impactful. The challenge was finding the perfect vehicle for this unconventional response, something that would resonate deeply, not just with Alex, but with anyone who witnessed the unfolding drama. It needed to be something undeniably positive, something that stood in stark contrast to the darkness Alex was peddling. And then, it hit me, the idea, once it fully formed, felt like a burst of light. It wasn't about words, it was about action. Tangible, undeniable action that spoke louder than any argument I could ever craft. The very group Alex had targeted in their hateful meme was one that desperately needed support, particularly its youth. Vulnerable youth, often marginalized and misunderstood, were frequently the first victims of such prejudice, their lives made harder by the very attitudes Alex was so casually spreading. My mind immediately went to a local charity, one I deeply admired, that focused on providing safe spaces, mentorship, and essential resources for at-risk young people. They worked tirelessly, often with limited funding, to empower these kids, to give them a fighting chance in a world that often seemed stacked against them. A significant donation. That was it. Not a token amount, but something substantial enough to make a real difference, something that would require a genuine commitment on my part. It would be an investment, not just in the charity, but in the very principle of countering hate with good. The thought filled me with a quiet resolve. This wasn't about me, or about Alex, in the grand scheme of things. It was about those young people, about turning a moment of digital ugliness into a real-world act of kindness and support. It felt like a small act of rebellion, a quiet assertion that love and compassion could, and would, triumph over bigotry. But the donation alone, while meaningful, wouldn't achieve the full impact I envisioned. The key was the subtle link back to Alex's post. Not a direct tag, not an accusatory statement, but something understated, elegant, and undeniably pointed. I pictured it, a simple screenshot of my donation receipt, perhaps with the charity's mission statement visible, posted on my own feed. And then, a carefully worded caption. Something that acknowledged the prevalence of negativity, without explicitly naming Alex or their hateful content, but clearly implied a direct response to it. It needed to be ambiguous enough to avoid a direct confrontation, yet clear enough for Alex and anyone else paying attention to understand the precise nature of my message. It was a delicate balance, a tightrope walk between subtlety and impact. I spent an hour crafting the perfect caption, deleting and rewriting, searching for the precise tone. It couldn't be preachy, couldn't be self-congratulatory. It had to be humble, yet firm. Ultimately, I settled on something like this. In response to the kind of negativity that seeks to divide and diminish, I choose to invest in hope. Proud to support, charity name, an organization doing vital work empowering vulnerable youth. Let's turn hate into help. The phrasing was deliberately broad, yet the timing and context, for anyone who had seen Alex's post, would be unmistakable. It was an invitation, a challenge, and a quiet declaration all rolled into one. I took a deep breath, reviewed the post one last time, and with a click, sent it out into the digital ether. The waiting began. The moment I hit post, a strange mix of exhilaration and apprehension washed over me. It was done. The gauntlet had been thrown, not with anger, but with an act of quiet defiance. Now, the ball was in Alex's court, and I had no idea how they would react. Part of me expected silence, a dismissive scroll past, perhaps a private message filled with their usual bluster. Another part, the more hopeful part, imagined they might actually reflect, might feel a flicker of shame or introspection. But deep down, I knew Alex. I knew their propensity for public displays, their need for validation, even negative validation. And I knew their particular brand of anger, which, once ignited, tended to burn hot and bright for all to see. I tried to go about my day as usual, but my phone felt heavier in my hand, my attention constantly drawn to it. Every notification made my heart quicken. Was it them? Had they seen it? Hours passed, and a quiet hum of activity began on my post. Friends and followers, seeing the donation and the message, started leaving supportive comments. What a beautiful way to respond. This is how you do it. Thank you for inspiring us. Their words were a balm, reinforcing my belief that there were far more people who wanted to build up than tear down. It was a small victory in itself, a testament to the power of positive action. But still, no sign from Alex. Just as I was beginning to think they might have missed it, or perhaps, for once, chosen discretion, my phone buzzed with an intensity that made me jump. It wasn't a private message. It was a public comment. And then another. And another. Alex. Their reaction was immediate, explosive, and exactly what I had secretly hoped for, yet simultaneously dreaded. It wasn't a measured response, or a quiet rebuttal. It was a furious, public meltdown, a digital tantrum unleashed directly into my comment section for the world to witness. Their first comment was a stream of incoherent rage, accusing me of being virtue signaling, holier than thou, and passive-aggressive. They called my donation a stunt and questioned my motives, implying I was only doing it for attention. Then came the personal attacks, dredging up old, irrelevant grievances, twisting past interactions, and attempting to discredit my character. They accused me of hypocrisy, of being just as bad as the people they hated, simply for daring to challenge their worldview. The language grew increasingly unhinged, peppered with expletives and wild accusations. It was a spectacular display of unbridled fury, raw and unfiltered, played out for anyone who cared to watch. My initial reaction was a surge of adrenaline, a desire to defend myself, to correct the record. But then, I paused. I reread their comments, then looked back at my own post, the image of the donation, the simple, hopeful message. The contrast was stark. My quiet act of generosity stood in stark opposition to their public spectacle of rage. Their anger, rather than diminishing my action, only served to highlight its purity. It made them look not just angry, but frankly, ridiculous. And in that moment, a new, even more powerful idea began to spark. The more I watched Alex's furious tirade unfold in my comments section, the clearer it became. Their anger wasn't just a reaction. It was a performance. A desperate, unhinged attempt to regain control of a narrative they felt I had stolen from them. They were flailing, their usual tactics of intimidation and aggression proving utterly ineffective against an opponent who refused to engage on their terms. Each new comment they posted, each increasingly vitriolic accusation, only served to underscore the stark difference between our approaches. My quiet act of giving, intended to uplift, stood in stark contrast to their public display of tearing down. And the audience was watching. Not just my immediate circle, but others who had stumbled upon the escalating drama. I saw new names appearing in the comments, not engaging with Alex, but reacting to their meltdown. Some expressed shock, others pity, and many more simply shared emojis of disbelief or amusement. It was like watching a train wreck in slow motion, except the train was Alex's carefully constructed image, and it was derailing spectacularly. Their attempts to paint me as the villain only succeeded in painting themselves as the volatile, irrational aggressor. It was a self-inflicted wound, a public unmasking of their true nature, and it was far more effective than any argument I could have ever made. But beyond the immediate satisfaction of seeing their tactics backfire, a profound realization began to dawn on me. If such a small, seemingly innocuous act, a single donation, subtly linked, could provoke such an explosive, unmanaged reaction, what else was possible? If their negativity was so easily triggered, so readily exposed, then perhaps it wasn't a force to be feared, but a resource to be harnessed. Not in a malicious way, but in a transformative one. Their anger, their need to lash out, their very public display of prejudice, could be a catalyst. It could be the spark that ignited something far larger, far more impactful. The idea began to take shape, blossoming from the initial seed of revenge into something far grander, far more altruistic. What if I didn't just stop at one donation? What if I leveraged this moment, this public spectacle of Alex's unhinged reaction, to create a wave of positive action? What if I turned their hate, their public display of prejudice, into a rallying cry for the very cause they sought to undermine? It was a bold thought, audacious even, but it felt right. It felt like the ultimate way to turn their negativity into something genuinely good, to extract something profoundly positive from a situation born of ugliness. This wasn't about Alex anymore, not truly. Their meltdown had simply provided the proof of concept, the undeniable evidence that a small act of positive defiance could expose the fragility of hate. Now, it was about scaling that concept. It was about taking the energy generated by their public tantrum, the shock, the disgust, the quiet support I had already received, and channeling it into a powerful, organized movement. It was about transforming a moment of individual frustration into a collective force for good. The classiest revenge imaginable, indeed. But more than that, it was an opportunity to build something meaningful, something lasting, something that truly mattered. And I knew exactly how I was going to do it. The initial idea, born from the ashes of Alex's public meltdown, quickly grew into a full-fledged vision. This wasn't just about a single donation anymore. It was about an entire online campaign. A systematic, strategic effort to turn the tide of negativity, to demonstrate that collective good could not only counteract hate but overwhelm it. I envisioned a movement, fueled by empathy and generosity, that would transform Alex's public display of prejudice into a powerful wave of support for the very cause they sought to diminish, vulnerable youth. The first step was to formalize the concept. I needed a name, a clear mission, and a compelling narrative that would resonate with people. I spent hours brainstorming, sketching out ideas, and refining the core message. It couldn't be about shaming Alex. It had to be about empowering others. It had to be positive, proactive, and inspiring. I settled on a name that encapsulated the spirit of transformation, turn the tide from hate to hope. The mission was simple, to raise awareness and funds for charities supporting at-risk youth, using moments of online negativity as a catalyst for positive action. Next, I needed a platform. My personal social media accounts were a good starting point, but for a sustained campaign, I needed something more dedicated. I created new profiles across various platforms, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, specifically for Turn the Tide. The branding was clean, hopeful, and focused on the positive impact of collective action. I designed simple, shareable graphics with uplifting messages and clear calls to action. The goal was to make it easy for people to understand the campaign's purpose and to participate. The strategy was multifaceted. Firstly, I would continue to highlight instances of online prejudice, not by engaging with the perpetrators directly, but by using them as prompts for action. Each hateful post, each discriminatory comment, would become an opportunity to share a link to Turn the Tide and encourage a donation to a vetted charity. The message would always be, instead of arguing, donate. Instead of despairing, act. This would be the core mechanism, the direct transformation of negativity into tangible good. Secondly, I planned to share stories of impact. I reached out to the charity I had initially supported, explaining my vision and seeking their collaboration. They were incredibly enthusiastic, providing me with anonymized success stories of young people whose lives had been positively impacted by their work. These stories, shared with permission, would be the heart of the campaign, demonstrating the real-world difference that every donation made. It wasn't just about fighting hate, It was about building a better future. The campaign was no longer just a reaction. It was a proactive force for good, born from an unexpected spark. And I was ready to ignite it. Launching Turn the Tide, From Hate to Hope felt like stepping onto a new, uncharted path. The initial ripple of Alex's meltdown had subsided, but the memory of it, and the public's reaction, served as a powerful foundation. I started by formally announcing the campaign on my personal social media, linking to the newly created Turn the Tide profiles. My announcement was carefully worded, emphasizing the positive mission without explicitly referencing Alex or their specific acts of prejudice. It was about turning a general societal problem into a tangible solution. "We've all seen the negativity online," my launch post began. "The division, the prejudice, the moments that make us feel helpless. But what if we could transform that energy? What if every instance of hate became a prompt for an act of kindness?" Turn the Tide is a new initiative dedicated to doing just that. Instead of engaging with negativity, we're channeling our collective energy into supporting vulnerable youth, the very individuals often targeted by prejudice. Join us in turning hate into help. Let's show the world what compassion can truly achieve. The response was immediate and overwhelmingly positive. My friends and followers, many of whom had witnessed Alex's public meltdown, understood the unspoken context. They shared the announcement, commented with words of encouragement, and, most importantly, started to donate. The initial surge of contributions was modest but steady, a clear indication that the message resonated. People were tired of the endless online arguments. They craved a more constructive outlet for their frustration and a way to feel like they were making a difference. I began sharing the stories from the charity, carefully crafting narratives that highlighted the resilience of the young people they served and the profound impact of the support they received. These stories were powerful, moving, and provided a tangible face to the cause. They transformed abstract concepts of vulnerable youth into real individuals with hopes, dreams, and challenges. Each story was accompanied by a clear call to action, directing people to the donation link and explaining how their contribution would directly benefit these young lives. As the campaign gained traction, I started to notice something remarkable. People were not just donating, they were actively participating in the Turn the Tide philosophy. I saw posts from others who, upon encountering hateful content on their own feeds, would respond not with arguments, but by sharing a link to Turn the Tide or making a small donation themselves, often tagging the campaign. They were adopting the strategy, turning their own moments of frustration into acts of positive defiance. It was no longer just my initiative, it was becoming a collective movement, a quiet rebellion against the pervasive negativity that had plagued the online world for so long. The ripple effect was beginning, and it was beautiful to witness. The momentum of Turn the Tide began to build steadily. What started as a personal response to a hateful act was evolving into a genuine community, a collective of individuals committed to transforming online negativity into real-world good. The initial donations, while encouraging, were just the beginning. As more people discovered the campaign, either through my posts or through others sharing the message, the contributions grew. It wasn't about massive individual donations, but rather the cumulative power of many small acts of generosity. Every $5, $10, or $20 added up, slowly but surely, making a tangible difference. I dedicated a significant portion of my time to nurturing this growing community. I responded to every comment, thanked every donor, and amplified every shared post that aligned with the campaign's mission. I created regular updates, showcasing the progress we were making and reiterating the impact of every contribution. Transparency was key. I shared screenshots of the growing donation totals, with personal information redacted, of course, and provided clear breakdowns of how the funds were being utilized by the partner charity. This fostered trust and encouraged continued engagement. One of the most rewarding aspects was witnessing how others embraced the core philosophy. I started seeing people using the hashtag #TurnHate into help independently, applying the principle to various forms of online negativity they encountered. Someone would post about a racist comment they saw, not to argue with the commenter, but to say, instead of getting angry, I just donated to turn the tide. Let's focus on building up, not tearing down. This organic adoption of the campaign's ethos was incredibly powerful. It showed that the message resonated deeply, tapping into a widespread desire for a more constructive way to navigate the often toxic online landscape. The campaign wasn't just about fundraising, it was about shifting mindsets. It was about empowering individuals to feel less helpless in the face of online hate, giving them a concrete, positive action they could take. It was a subtle but profound form of resistance. Instead of engaging in futile arguments that only amplified the negativity, people were choosing to channel their frustration into something productive and impactful. It was a quiet revolution, demonstrating that the most effective way to combat darkness isn't always to directly fight it, but to shine a brighter light elsewhere. As the campaign grew, so did the attention. Local news outlets, always on the lookout for uplifting stories, began to take notice. I received inquiries for interviews, eager to highlight this unique approach to online activism. This was an unexpected but welcome development, as it promised to amplify the Turn the Tide message to an even broader audience. The momentum was undeniable, and the feeling of turning something so ugly into something so genuinely good was incredibly validating. The classiest revenge, indeed, was proving to be a powerful force for change. The media attention was a double-edged sword. On one hand, it provided an incredible platform to amplify the Turn the Tide message, reaching audiences far beyond my immediate social media circles. Local news channels ran segments, online publications wrote articles, and suddenly, the campaign had a much larger spotlight. This brought in new donors, new supporters, and significantly boosted our fundraising efforts. The story of turning online hate into tangible support for vulnerable youth resonated deeply with people who were tired of the constant negativity in the digital sphere. On the other hand, increased visibility also meant increased scrutiny. While the vast majority of the feedback was overwhelmingly positive, there were inevitably a few detractors. Some accused the campaign of being self-serving or performative, echoing Alex's initial accusations. But these voices were quickly drowned out by the chorus of support, and frankly, their criticisms often served to highlight the very problem Turn the Tide was trying to address. Their negativity, in a strange way, only further validated the need for such an initiative. Throughout this period, I maintained a strict policy of not directly engaging with Alex or their continued, sporadic outbursts. While their initial meltdown had been public and dramatic, they had since retreated somewhat, occasionally posting passive-aggressive comments or thinly veiled insults on their own feed, clearly still seething about the unexpected turn of events. But I refused to give them the satisfaction of a direct response. My focus remained solely on the positive impact of Turn the Tide. The campaign was no longer about them. It was about the cause, about the community we were building, and about the tangible difference we were making. The charity we partnered with was thrilled. The influx of donations allowed them to expand their programs, reach more young people, and provide even more comprehensive support. They shared heartwarming testimonials, videos of kids participating in new activities, and detailed reports on how the funds were being utilized. These updates were invaluable, providing concrete evidence of the campaign's impact and fueling the enthusiasm of our donors. It wasn't just about money, it was about lives being changed, futures being brightened. As the campaign grew, I started to think about its longevity. This couldn't just be a one-off reaction to a specific incident. It needed to be sustainable, a lasting force for good. I began exploring options for formalizing Turn the Tide, perhaps registering it as a non-profit or partnering with a larger charitable organization to ensure its continued operation beyond my individual efforts. The vision was expanding, moving from a clever act of revenge to a genuine legacy of positive change. The initial spark had ignited a fire, and now it was about keeping that fire burning brightly, illuminating the path forward for others to follow. The idea of Turn the Tide transitioning from a spontaneous campaign to a sustainable initiative became my new focus. I recognized that while my personal drive had been the initial catalyst, true longevity required a more robust structure. I couldn't be the sole engine forever. The movement needed to be bigger than any one individual. This meant exploring legal frameworks, building a dedicated team, and establishing clear operational guidelines. It was a daunting prospect, moving from the organic, reactive phase to a more deliberate, strategic one, but the potential for greater impact was undeniable. My first step was to consult with legal professionals specializing in non-profit formation. I needed to understand the intricacies of setting up a charitable organization, from tax exemptions to governance structures. It was a steep learning curve, filled with jargon and bureaucratic hurdles, but the vision of a permanent Turn the Tide foundation kept me motivated. I envisioned a future where the campaign could continue to operate, regardless of specific online incidents, consistently turning negativity into positive action. Simultaneously, I began to identify key individuals within the Turn the Tide community who had shown exceptional dedication and enthusiasm. These were people who not only donated but actively shared the message, offered their skills, and genuinely embodied the spirit of the campaign. I started reaching out to them, cautiously at first, to gauge their interest in taking on more formal roles. The response was overwhelmingly positive. People were eager to contribute their time and expertise, whether it was in social media management, content creation, or outreach. This nascent team, fueled by shared passion, became the backbone of the campaign's future. We held our first virtual team meeting, a diverse group of individuals from different backgrounds, united by a common purpose. We discussed strategies for expanding our reach, diversifying our fundraising methods, and establishing partnerships with more charities that aligned with our mission of supporting vulnerable youth. The energy was palpable, a testament to the power of collective action when driven by a clear, positive goal. It was no longer just my idea. It was our idea, a shared vision that was rapidly gaining momentum. The media continued to follow our progress, drawn by the unique narrative of turning hate into hope. These stories often highlighted the campaign's origins, implicitly referencing the initial incident without ever explicitly naming Alex. This subtle acknowledgement served as a powerful reminder of the campaign's genesis, reinforcing its core message without giving further attention to the source of the negativity. It was a testament to the campaign's success that Alex's attempts to disrupt had ultimately only served to fuel a much larger, more impactful movement. The classiest revenge was now building a lasting legacy. As Turn the Tide transitioned into a more formalized entity, the focus broadened beyond merely reacting to online negativity. While that remained a core principle, we began to proactively seek out opportunities to promote positivity and resilience. We launched educational initiatives, creating shareable content that offered strategies for dealing with online hate, emphasizing self-care, and encouraging constructive engagement. This included tips on identifying misinformation, fostering empathy, and understanding the psychological impact of online bullying. Our goal was not just to counter hate, but to equip individuals with the tools to navigate the digital landscape more safely and effectively. We also expanded our partnerships. While the initial charity remained a cornerstone, we began collaborating with other reputable organizations that supported vulnerable youth in different capacities, from mental health services to educational scholarships and homelessness prevention. This diversification allowed us to address a wider range of needs within the youth community and appeal to a broader base of donors who might have specific areas of interest. Each new partnership brought fresh perspectives and amplified our collective impact, reinforcing the idea that a united front could achieve far more than isolated efforts. The growth of the campaign also meant a significant increase in the volume of donations. We implemented more sophisticated fundraising tools and platforms, ensuring transparency and ease of giving. Regular reports were published, detailing every dollar raised and every program supported. This commitment to accountability was crucial in maintaining the trust of our growing donor base and solidifying our reputation as a legitimate and impactful charitable organization. The sheer scale of the funds we were now channeling towards youth support was astonishing, a testament to the power of collective goodwill. Perhaps one of the most profound shifts was in the narrative surrounding online hate itself. Turn the Tide wasn't just a response, it was becoming a model. Other individuals and groups, inspired by our approach, began to adopt similar strategies, finding their own ways to transform negative online interactions into positive real-world actions. This ripple effect was incredibly validating, demonstrating that the concept was scalable and adaptable. It was a testament to the idea that anger and frustration, when channeled constructively, could be a powerful force for good, rather than a destructive one. Through it all, Alex remained a distant, almost forgotten, presence. Their occasional, increasingly desperate attempts to stir up controversy or discredit the campaign were met with a resounding silence from our end. The sheer volume of positive activity surrounding Turn the Tide simply overshadowed their petty outbursts. Their initial act of hate, intended to spread division, had instead become the unlikely genesis of a movement that was bringing people together and genuinely changing lives. The revenge was complete, not in a moment of personal triumph, but in the quiet, undeniable success of a cause far greater than any individual grudge. The evolution of Turn the Tide continued, cementing its place as a recognized force for positive change in the digital landscape. We started hosting virtual events, bringing together experts on youth development, mental health, and online safety. These webinars and online forums provided valuable resources to our community, fostering a sense of shared learning and collective empowerment. We invited the young people who had benefited from the charity's programs to share their stories, with appropriate consent and anonymity, offering powerful, first-hand accounts of how support could transform lives. These testimonials were incredibly moving and served as a potent reminder of the real impact behind every donation. Our social media presence became more sophisticated, moving beyond simple calls to action to become a hub for inspiration and education. We curated content that celebrated acts of kindness, highlighted the resilience of youth, and offered practical advice for fostering healthier online environments. We ran themed weeks, focusing on specific challenges faced by vulnerable youth, such as homelessness, bullying, or access to education, and dedicated our fundraising efforts during those periods to charities addressing those particular needs. This targeted approach allowed our community to feel an even deeper connection to the cause and understand the specific impact of their contributions. The campaign also began to attract the attention of corporate sponsors. Companies, seeing the positive media coverage and the genuine impact we were making, reached out with offers of support, ranging from matching donation programs to pro bono services. This was a significant milestone, as corporate partnerships provided a new stream of funding and added a layer of legitimacy and scale that was previously unimaginable. It meant we could expand our reach even further, supporting more charities and impacting more young lives. Throughout this period of rapid growth and expansion, I remained committed to the core principle that had started it all, turning negativity into good. Every time a new wave of online hate surfaced, whether from Alex or others, we would quietly, but firmly, reiterate our mission. We never engaged in the mudslinging. Instead, we would post a message like, "Feeling frustrated by the noise? Channel that energy into something meaningful. Support vulnerable youth today." It was a constant, gentle redirection, a refusal to be drawn into the very negativity we sought to combat. The transformation was complete. What began as a personal act of defiance, a quiet form of revenge, had blossomed into a thriving, impactful movement. The initial spark of anger had been transmuted into a powerful, sustained force for good. Alex's hateful meme, once a source of personal distress, had ironically become the unlikely cornerstone of a campaign that was genuinely changing lives and fostering a more compassionate online world. The classiest revenge was now a legacy of hope, a testament to the enduring power of positive action in the face of prejudice. The sustained success of Turn the Tide wasn't just about the numbers or the media attention, it was about the profound cultural shift it represented. We had, in our own way, created a new paradigm for responding to online hate. Instead of the predictable cycle of outrage and counter-outrage, we offered an alternative, a path of constructive action and compassionate redirection. This wasn't about ignoring the problem of online prejudice, but about disarming it by refusing to feed it, and instead, using its very existence as a prompt for positive change. One of the most powerful aspects of this shift was the empowerment it offered to individuals. Many people had expressed feeling helpless in the face of widespread online negativity. They wanted to do something, but felt overwhelmed or feared engaging in fruitless arguments. Turn the Tide provided a simple, tangible solution. It gave them a way to channel their frustration into meaningful action, transforming their passive despair into active hope. This sense of agency was incredibly liberating for our community members, turning them from frustrated observers into active participants in building a better world. We also began to see anecdotal evidence of the campaign's influence beyond our direct community. Educators reached out, asking for resources to teach their students about digital citizenship and constructive online engagement, citing Turn the Tide as an example of positive activism. Other grassroots organizations, inspired by our model, started their own initiatives, adapting the turn hate into help philosophy to address different social issues. It was a testament to the universality of the concept that positive action, strategically applied, could indeed be the most potent response to negativity. My personal journey through this process was transformative as well. What had started as an impulse for classy revenge had evolved into a deep commitment to social good. The initial satisfaction of seeing Alex's meltdown had long faded, replaced by the far more profound joy of witnessing lives being changed, communities being strengthened, and a positive movement taking root. The bitterness that the initial hateful meme had instilled in me was completely gone, replaced by a sense of purpose and fulfillment. The irony of the situation was not lost on me. Alex, in their attempt to spread division and prejudice, had inadvertently become the unwitting catalyst for a movement dedicated to unity and compassion. Their negativity, instead of achieving its intended destructive purpose, had been meticulously dismantled and repurposed into a powerful engine for good. It was the ultimate reversal, a testament to the enduring truth that even from the ugliest origins, something beautiful and impactful could emerge. The campaign was now a living, breathing entity, a testament to the power of turning the tide. The sustained growth and impact of Turn the Tide eventually led us to consider a broader, more ambitious goal, establishing an annual Day of Hope or Compassion Challenge. This would be a dedicated 24-hour period where we would encourage everyone, not just our existing community, to consciously respond to any online negativity they encountered by performing an act of kindness, making a donation, or simply sharing a message of hope. The idea was to create a concentrated wave of positivity that would visibly counteract the pervasive online toxicity, even if just for a single day. We began planning for the inaugural Day of Hope with meticulous detail. We designed special graphics, prepared a social media toolkit for participants, and lined up a series of live virtual events, including interviews with the charities we supported, testimonials from beneficiaries, and discussions with experts on digital well-being. The aim was to make it easy and inspiring for anyone to participate, regardless of their prior involvement with Turn the Tide. It was about democratizing the act of positive response, making it accessible to everyone. The marketing for Day of Hope focused heavily on the transformative power of individual actions. You can't control what others post, our promotional materials declared, but you can control your response. On date, let's choose hope. Let's turn the tide, one act of kindness at a time. We leveraged our media connections to secure widespread coverage, hoping to make Day of Hope a trending topic and a widely recognized event. The vision was to create a moment of collective consciousness, a tangible demonstration of the power of choosing good over hate. As the Day of Hope approached, the excitement within our team and community was palpable. We saw people sharing their personal pledges, committing to specific acts of kindness or donations. Schools and community groups reached out, expressing interest in participating. It was clear that the message resonated far beyond our initial expectations, tapping into a universal desire for a more positive and compassionate online world. The campaign had truly transcended its origins, becoming a broader movement for digital wellness and social good. On the actual Day of Hope, the response was overwhelming. Social media feeds were flooded with messages of kindness, screenshots of donations, and stories of positive actions. The hashtag #DayOfHope trended globally, and news outlets reported on the widespread participation. It was a powerful, visible demonstration of collective goodwill, a stark contrast to the usual online noise. The sheer volume of positivity was breathtaking, a testament to what could be achieved when people consciously chose to channel their energy towards good. It was, in every sense, the ultimate victory, a culmination of everything Turn the Tide stood for. The success of the inaugural Day of Hope was a pivotal moment for Turn the Tide. It proved that our philosophy wasn't just a niche idea. It was a scalable, impactful model for positive social change. The sheer volume of participation, the outpouring of generosity, and the widespread media coverage solidified our position as a leading voice in the movement to foster a more compassionate digital landscape. The energy from that day reverberated for weeks, inspiring new initiatives and drawing even more people into our community. Following the Day of Hope, we compiled a comprehensive impact report, detailing the funds raised, the number of charities supported, and the stories of young lives positively affected. This report was shared widely, not just with our donors, but with the public, demonstrating the tangible outcomes of collective action. Transparency remained a cornerstone of our operations, ensuring that every supporter felt confident in the integrity and effectiveness of Turn the Tide. This commitment to accountability further strengthened our reputation and encouraged continued engagement. We also took the opportunity to reflect and refine our strategy. The Day of Hope had shown us the power of concentrated efforts, but we knew that sustained change required ongoing commitment. We developed new programs, including a digital empathy workshop series, designed to teach young people and adults practical skills for navigating online interactions with kindness and resilience. These workshops were offered free of charge, reaching schools, community centers, and even corporate environments, spreading our message of constructive engagement far and wide. The media continued to be fascinated by the Turn the Tide story, often highlighting its unique origin. While Alex was never explicitly named, the narrative of turning hate into hope resonated deeply, serving as a powerful example of how negativity could be disarmed and repurposed. I often found myself reflecting on that initial hateful meme, marveling at how something so ugly could have inadvertently sparked such a beautiful and impactful movement. It was a constant reminder that even in the darkest corners of the internet, there was always an opportunity for light. As Turn the Tide grew into a truly global movement, the initial personal satisfaction of classy revenge transformed into something far more profound, a deep sense of purpose and collective achievement. It was no longer about a single act of defiance, but about building a lasting legacy of compassion and positive action. The campaign had not only changed the lives of countless vulnerable youth but had also empowered countless individuals to become agents of change themselves, proving that the most powerful response to hate is always, unequivocally, an act of love. The growth of Turn the Tide also brought with it opportunities for collaboration with other established non-profits and even tech companies. We found common ground with organizations focused on digital literacy, anti-bullying initiatives, and mental health support for youth. These partnerships allowed us to pool resources, share expertise, and amplify our collective reach, creating a more cohesive and impactful ecosystem of support for young people navigating the complexities of the digital world. We were no longer just an independent campaign. We were becoming a vital node in a larger network of positive change. One particularly exciting development was a partnership with a major social media platform. Recognizing the positive impact of Turn the Tide on online discourse, they approached us to collaborate on developing new features and educational tools aimed at fostering healthier online communities. This was a significant validation of our approach, demonstrating that even the giants of the tech world were beginning to see the value in proactive, positive interventions rather than just reactive moderation. It was an opportunity to embed our philosophy of turning hate into help directly into the very platforms where so much negativity often originated. This collaboration led to the development of a compassion button feature, which, when clicked on a hateful or divisive post, would offer users the option to either report the content or, more uniquely, to make a small donation to Turn the Tide or share a pre-written message of support for vulnerable communities. It was an experimental feature, but its very existence was a testament to the shift in thinking. It provided a tangible, positive alternative to simply scrolling past or engaging in a fruitless argument, empowering users to actively choose compassion. The narrative of Turn the Tide also began to be studied in academic circles. Researchers in sociology, digital media, and psychology expressed interest in our unique approach to combating online hate, analyzing its effectiveness and its potential for broader application. I was invited to speak at conferences and universities, sharing the story of Turn the Tide and its evolution. It was surreal to see a spontaneous act of defiance, born from a moment of frustration, being dissected and celebrated as a model for social change. Through all these advancements, I never lost sight of the core mission. The focus remained steadfastly on the vulnerable youth we aimed to support. Every new partnership, every new feature, every new program was evaluated through the lens of its potential impact on young lives. The classy revenge had long since transformed into a profound commitment to making the world a better, kinder place, one act of compassion at a time. The initial spark had not only ignited a fire but had built an entire infrastructure of hope. As Turn the Tide continued to grow in influence and structure, my role within the organization naturally shifted. I moved from being the sole operator to leading a dedicated team, empowering others to take on key responsibilities in fundraising, outreach, program development, and communications. This delegation was essential for sustainability, ensuring that the campaign's impact wasn't dependent on any single individual. It was incredibly rewarding to see the passion and expertise of others flourish within the framework we had built, each person bringing their unique skills to further our shared mission. We established a formal board of directors, comprised of respected leaders from the non-profit sector, business, and education. Their guidance and strategic oversight were invaluable in navigating the complexities of scaling a charitable organization, ensuring good governance, and maximizing our impact. This professionalization of Turn the Tide was a testament to its evolution from a grassroots movement to a legitimate, well-respected entity in the philanthropic landscape. One of our most impactful ongoing initiatives became the Youth Voices program. We recognized the importance of empowering the very individuals we aim to support to tell their own stories and advocate for their needs. Through this program, we provided training and platforms for vulnerable youth to share their experiences, articulate their challenges, and inspire others with their resilience. Their authentic voices were incredibly powerful, resonating deeply with our community and reminding everyone of the human impact behind the statistics. These young advocates became the true heart of Turn the Tide, embodying the hope and strength we championed. The campaign's success also led to unexpected opportunities for cross-cultural exchange. We started receiving inquiries from international organizations and individuals interested in replicating the Turn the Tide model in their own countries. The concept of transforming online negativity into local acts of kindness and support for vulnerable communities proved to be universally appealing. We began developing adaptable frameworks and resources to assist these nascent international efforts, envisioning a global network of Turn the Tide initiatives, each tailored to its local context but united by the core philosophy. Through all these developments, a quiet sense of profound satisfaction settled within me. The initial anger that had sparked this journey had long been replaced by a deep sense of purpose and fulfillment. The classy revenge had not only worked but had transcended its original intent, blossoming into something far more meaningful and enduring. Alex's hateful act, once a source of personal distress, had become the unlikely cornerstone of a global movement for compassion, a testament to the transformative power of choosing good in the face of adversity. The tide had truly turned, and it was a beautiful thing to behold. The continued expansion of Turn the Tide meant that our reach extended far beyond the initial social media platforms. We launched a dedicated website, serving as a central hub for information, resources, donation portals, and stories of impact. This professional online presence further solidified our legitimacy and made it easier for people to engage with our mission. The website became a testament to the journey, showcasing our growth from a simple idea to a multifaceted organization. We also started organizing in-person community events, carefully designed to foster connection and reinforce the message of compassion. These events ranged from local fundraising walks to workshops on digital well-being and forums where community members could share their experiences and strategies for countering negativity. These gatherings provided a vital human element to our largely online campaign, allowing people to connect face-to-face, build stronger bonds, and feel a deeper sense of belonging to the Turn the Tide movement. The educational component of our work became increasingly prominent. We developed comprehensive curricula for schools, focusing on media literacy, critical thinking, and the importance of empathy in online interactions. These programs aimed to equip the next generation with the skills to navigate the digital world responsibly and to become agents of positive change themselves. We believed that prevention was just as important as reaction, and by educating young minds, we could help foster a more compassionate online environment from the ground up. As Turn the Tide matured, so too did the public's understanding of its origins. While Alex was never named, the story of a hateful act being transformed into a force for good became a powerful, almost mythical, narrative that underpinned our work. It served as a constant, subtle reminder that even the most egregious displays of prejudice could be rendered impotent when met with an unexpected, overwhelming wave of positivity. The irony of Alex's unintended contribution to our success was a quiet, enduring triumph. My personal reflections on this journey often brought me back to that initial moment of outrage. The feeling of helplessness, the desire to lash out, the struggle to find a meaningful response. To have navigated that moment not with anger, but with strategic compassion, and to see it blossom into something so genuinely impactful, was deeply fulfilling. The classy revenge had evolved into something far more profound, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the enduring power of choosing hope over hate. The tide had not only turned, but it was now a powerful current, carrying countless acts of kindness and support to those who needed it most. The long-term impact of Turn the Tide began to manifest in tangible ways, extending beyond fundraising metrics and media mentions. We started receiving feedback from the partner charities about a noticeable shift in public perception towards vulnerable youth. The campaign's consistent focus on their resilience, potential, and inherent worth was slowly but surely chipping away at the stereotypes and prejudices that had often plagued these communities. It was a subtle but profound change, demonstrating that sustained positive narratives could indeed reshape societal attitudes. We also observed a ripple effect within the broader online community. While online hate certainly hadn't disappeared, there was a growing awareness and a more proactive approach to countering it. More individuals and groups were adopting similar strategies of positive deflection, choosing to respond to negativity with acts of kindness, charitable donations, or messages of unity, rather than engaging in fruitless arguments. Turn the Tide had, in a way, provided a blueprint for a more effective and emotionally healthier response to online toxicity. Our annual Day of Hope became a highly anticipated event, a global moment of collective compassion that transcended geographical boundaries. It served as a powerful reminder that despite the divisive noise, there was an overwhelming majority of people who yearned for connection, understanding, and positive action. The day became a celebration of human kindness, a visible counter-narrative to the often bleak headlines about online conflict. As the founder, I found myself increasingly in a mentorship role, guiding new generations of activists and social entrepreneurs who were inspired by Turn the Tide. I shared the lessons learned, the challenges overcome, and the enduring power of choosing a different path. It was incredibly rewarding to see the seeds we had planted grow into new, diverse initiatives, each contributing to a more compassionate and equitable world. The legacy of Turn the Tide was not just in its direct impact, but in the inspiration it provided to countless others. Reflecting on the journey, from that single hateful meme to a global movement, felt almost surreal. The initial impulse for revenge had been so personal, so immediate. But by choosing a path of strategic good, it had unlocked a potential for impact far beyond anything I could have imagined. Alex, the unwitting catalyst, had long faded into irrelevance, their brief moment of hateful notoriety completely eclipsed by the enduring light of Turn the Tide. The classiest revenge had truly become a lasting legacy of hope, a testament to the idea that the most powerful response to darkness is always to create more light. The journey of Turn the Tide was, in many ways, a testament to the power of a single, well-placed idea. It began with an individual's frustration, a desire to respond to hate without succumbing to it. That initial spark, fueled by a commitment to positive action, ignited a small flame, which then grew into a steady fire, and eventually, a powerful blaze. We had proven that even in the vast, often overwhelming landscape of the internet, a deliberate choice for good could create a ripple effect that touched countless lives. Our team, now a diverse and dedicated group of professionals and passionate volunteers, continued to innovate. We explored new technologies to enhance our outreach and impact, from developing AI-powered tools to identify and counter online hate speech with positive alternatives, to creating immersive virtual reality experiences that fostered empathy for vulnerable youth. The digital world, which had once been the source of our initial challenge, was now becoming a powerful ally in our mission. The stories of the young people we supported remained at the heart of everything we did. We continued to amplify their voices, celebrating their achievements, sharing their struggles, and reminding the world of their immense potential. These narratives were the most potent antidote to prejudice, humanizing the very groups that hate sought to dehumanize. They were living proof that every dollar raised, every message of support shared, translated into tangible opportunities and brighter futures. As the years passed, Turn the Tide became more than just a campaign, it became a philosophy. It was integrated into educational curricula, cited in academic research, and adopted by community leaders as a model for constructive engagement. The concept of turning hate into help became a recognized strategy for navigating conflict, not just online, but in various aspects of life. It was a simple yet profound principle, that our response to negativity defines us more than the negativity itself. Looking back, the initial act of classy revenge felt like a distant memory, a mere footnote in the much larger, more significant story of Turn the Tide. The satisfaction derived from Alex's public meltdown was fleeting, replaced by the deep, enduring fulfillment of contributing to something genuinely good, something that transcended personal grievances and created lasting positive change. The campaign had not only achieved its initial goal of disarming hate but had also built a powerful, enduring legacy of hope, compassion, and collective action. It was a testament to the idea that even the smallest act of kindness, strategically applied, could indeed turn the tide. The ultimate vindication of Turn the Tide wasn't just in its growth or its impact, but in the subtle, yet profound, shift it brought about in my own perspective. The initial anger that fueled the revenge had long since dissipated, replaced by a deep sense of peace and purpose. I no longer viewed online negativity with dread, but with a quiet understanding of its potential to be a catalyst for good. It was a powerful lesson in alchemy, how to transmute something base and ugly into something precious and transformative. The irony of Alex's role in this entire saga never ceased to amaze me. Their hateful meme, intended to spread division and hurt, had instead become the unlikely cornerstone of a movement dedicated to unity and healing. Every time Turn the Tide achieved a new milestone, a significant fundraising goal, a new partnership, a successful day of hope, it was a quiet, undeniable testament to the fact that their negativity had been utterly disarmed and repurposed. Their attempt to diminish had instead amplified, their desire to divide had inadvertently united. I sometimes wondered if Alex ever reflected on the unintended consequences of their actions. Did they ever see the news reports, the trending hashtags, the growing community of Turn the Tide supporters, and recognize the monster they had inadvertently created, a monster of compassion and collective good? It was unlikely. People deeply entrenched in prejudice rarely possess the capacity for such introspection. But their lack of awareness didn't diminish the victory. In fact, it underscored it. The most effective revenge, I realized, wasn't about making the other person suffer, but about rising so far above their negativity that they became utterly irrelevant to your success. Turn the Tide had become a living embodiment of this principle. It wasn't about fighting hate directly, but about building something so powerfully positive that hate simply couldn't compete. It was about demonstrating, through tangible action, that there was a better way to engage, a more constructive path forward. The campaign had provided a blueprint for converting frustration into action, despair into hope, and individual outrage into collective impact. And so, the story of Turn the Tide continued, a testament to the enduring power of human kindness and resilience. It was a reminder that even in the face of the most challenging negativity, we always have a choice. We can choose to descend into the fray, or we can choose to build something beautiful. We can choose to be consumed by anger, or we can choose to channel that energy into creating a better world. The classiest revenge, it turned out, was simply choosing good. And that choice had made all the difference.